Illinois is the state in which Chicago belongs and is regarded well for its punk and hardcore scene. Fall Out were a good example of the Chicago side. Today's Illinois-based pop-punk/emo band is not them. In fact, it's Alkaline Trio who formed in McHenry, Illinois in 1996. Even though they've kept a fairly consistent lineup since their formation, lead singer/guitarist Matt Skiba is the only remaining founding member, and with the dude pulling double duty for two well-known pop-punk bands in both Alkaline Trio and Blink-182, why not show the former of them some love? It's Backtracking, and this time it's Alkaline Trio. Let's face the music. We start with the band's debut album titled God Damn It, released in 1998 through Asian Man Records and produced by Matt Allison and Alkaline Trio themselves. This is also their shortest album at 32 minutes and 42 seconds, and this album is a pretty good example of the band's sound, really. It's weird in terms of when it was released though, because a lot of other bands at the time were doing such similar stuff, and the late 90s were a period where punk rock just got a bit darker in general. But Alkaline Trio actually became not just an example of that, but a bit of a beneficiary. Hell, because of where the band are today, you can't argue that it got them somewhere. The lineup for this album consisted of Matt Skiba on vocals and guitar, Dan Andriano on bass and backing vocals, and Glenn Porter on drums. Despite Dan still being with the band today, the original bassist was named Rob Doran, but he left before the band got too into this album. Before the change, he did actually write the song Nose Over Tail while still part of the band, so it's safe to assume they left sometime after that. So, yeah. Anyway, speaking of this album, the title ties into the overall theme, since Matt Skiba was interested in Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan at the time. I know it's weird, but stick with me. This album has a fair few religious references, mostly the album's cover having 3 clocks set to 6 o'clock, which is in itself a reference to Matt's former job as a bike messenger, where he would wake up saying, God damn it. I'm not kidding. Still, there have been weirder reasons for album titles. That does actually, oddly enough, lend itself to the sound, as there is those references, but it's not a satanic-sounding album. It's just a dark punk rock record that was loosely inspired by religion, and the structure has that perfect balance of being dark without being too campy or obvious. To carry that kind of edge to it at a time where way too many bands try too hard speaks volumes of just how amazingly well Alkaline Trio got it right for the balance. Even lyrically, it's got a great tone to it, going over things like love, addiction, religion, and loss, but mixed well with the darkness and surprising honesty and humour going hand in hand with the serious styles and different punk rock sound. Matt is a pretty good vocalist, singing with a great earnestness and passion, and playing some really fast-paced drilling riffs and decent solos, short as they are. Dan has some awesome bass work, showing a great pace and work rate that drives things home well, and Glenn's drumming is nice and quick, hitting hard and sounds well over everything else. Standout songs include Cop, San Francisco, Enjoy Your Day, Clavicle, and my favourite in the song My Little Needle. I almost messed that up. With good balance, honesty, and great sound and production for its time, goddamn, it's a pretty solid piece of work and a pretty good debut, and I can recommend it. Pretty good. We then reached their second album, Maybe I'll Catch Fire. Released in 2000, it would be the band's last through the Asian Man label, but both Matt Allison and the band themselves would still be producing, so that's good. It would also be the band's last with drummer Glenn Porter, who would be replaced by Mike Falumley for the next album, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Anyway, this album is pretty good. It's a good example of Sequel album all in all, but in terms of the tone when compared to Goddamn It, this one sounds a bit more positive. Because of that, it feels like this album passes by quicker, even though Goddamn It is their shortest album and is shorter than Maybe I'll Catch Fire by roughly 3 minutes, which is weirder still because this album has 2 tracks fewer than their debut, and now my head hurts. Oh god, I hate thinking about things like that. Oh, my head, ow. So the band went for a different approach for this one, and it kind of works. In terms of tone, it's not as dark sounding as their debut, but it's still aggressive and fast paced. It feels more like traditional late 90s/early noughties pop punk, if anything, but it's done in the band's own way to make it sound like it's them. Having less of a sense of humour but still a sense of honesty is another example, and it makes me like the album all the more. Some critics say that this album isn't as good as their debut, but I disagree. I think it's a little bit better, and it's more balanced and upbeat, but it still keeps the Alkaline Trio formula. Then again, one of those reviews was from Pitchfork Media, who just hate everything anyway. They're the angriest of all the hipster douche-nozzle review sites, and a constant source of entertainment for me. Anyway, the album's tone lends itself well to the fast structure and more positive feeling, and the production once again is stellar. You can tell that they went for a more aggressive sound on purpose for Goddamn It, and you can tell that they went a bit lighter for Maybe I'll Catch Fire, so kudos for that. It adds to the great balance of the aggressive tones with the light subject matter, and lyrically it's still dark with some humour there, but it takes itself a bit more seriously. Its subjects like love, losing friends, and some political references too are handled and balanced well. Matt's vocals sound a bit better and more polished, and riffs are still fast and bending with small solos that still sound really, really good. Dan's bass work is awesome, a bit less pronounced, but still has some good grooves and riffs of its own, and Glenn sounds good for his last album with the band, hitting hard on the drums and sounding just nice and crisp. Standout songs include Tuck Me In, Sleepyhead, the title track, Matt and Me, and my favourite in Fuck You Aurora. That's the actual name of the song. Maybe I'll Catch Fire is just a good follow-up album to a good debut, with the right things tweaked and the right steps taken while still sticking to what made their debut so good. Also, having way better production really helps. I can recommend this one, so yeah, give it a go for yourselves. It's really good. Next is the band's third album, From Here to Infirmary. Released in 2001, the band put this one out through Vagrant Records label. Yet, despite the change, we had the same producers as last time, in Matt Allison and, of course, Alkaline Trio themselves. It's also the band's only album with Mike Falumley, who would be replaced by Derek Grant, but not without Atom Willard filling in for a brief while, even appearing in Alkaline Trio's music video for Private Life from this album. Speaking of the music videos, this album actually contains my first song by the band in Stupid Kid, which is still arguably the most popular song, as well as one of the three that Corinne plays at least semi-regularly. And to be fair, even with the behind-the-scenes stuff of people coming and going, the band still put out another great piece of work. It's a good crack at getting to bigger audiences, but it still has the integrity of their first two, and it's got the darkness of Goddammit and the more balanced and lighter tone of Maybe I'll Catch Fire. I actually feel like this was where the band wanted to go for this album. They established who they were with their debut, slightly changed the formula in an interesting way for the second album, and kept changing it to mold their best known sound for the third album. It's just a great blueprint, and you can't argue with something that smart going in. I sound a bit Australian, then I apologise. Although technically I did listen to the UK version of this album, it only has 2 extra tracks in Standard Break and Hell Yes, so not a lot else changes beyond that. The structure is similar to the last 2 albums, but with more pop-punk vibe, as with the bass at the time, which lends to a lot of the tone, which is a great meshing of their first 2 albums together. Lyrically, it focuses more on love and depression, it includes some media and religious references, but takes itself more seriously and breaks away a bit from the humour, albeit not completely. It's remarkably balanced from that alone. Blah. The band performances are also great, with Matt putting in some good vocal chops, delivering heartfelt stories and going over a nice wide range of emotions. Dan's bass work is at its most pronounced here, with good grooves and more time to shine on its own. And Mike's drumming is pretty good for his only album, with the band being quick, precise and sounding well-rounded. Standout songs include You're Dead, Another Innocent Girl, Trucks and Trains, Take Lots with Alcohol, and my favourite in Stupid Kid. From Here to Infirmary has a great title, and it's just a great album. Produced well, accessible, surprisingly forward-thinking, and great performances usually equates to awesome. And this album is indeed awesome, because it has all the ingredients that would equate to it being awesome. So I can recommend this one, because it's awesome. And next, and lastly for part 1 of this episode, is the band's 4th album, Good Morning, but spelled morning M-O-U-R-I-N. ING. So yeah, released in 2003, the label is still Vagrant, but we have new producers Joe McGrath and Jerry Finn, with no signs of the band helping behind the booth at all. However, that may not be an entirely bad thing, unlike my butchering of that line. See, one thing that I don't bring up is, as much as I love it when a band produces their own stuff, I get that it can be taxing for a band to work on both sides of the studio. Having Alkaline Trio only perform and write the songs without having to produce is a blessing in disguise, and it fully allows the band to focus on their own thing whilst having 2 great producers that they can trust helping out anyway. And man, do they do a good job. Good Morning is maybe the band's most experimental album, and it feels like a mix of their previous stuff, but the album that it sounds like most possibly is Goddammit. There's a darker tone to things all in all, and the lyrics make the feeling more apparent and emotional, but we'll get into that a bit more later. This album also feels like a throwback to punk in general. The best comparison that I can draw is Rival Factions by Project 86, and whilst I personally prefer that album more because it's really good, I can appreciate and respect Alkaline Trio's attempt at success to go for something similar with Good Morning. Having said that, it still has all the flavours and staples of an Alkaline Trio album, with fast-paced punk instrumentals and emotional singing. But one thing that surprised me was the acoustic guitars used, mostly on the tracks Every Thug Needs a Lady and the closing song Blue in the Face, the latter of which is entirely acoustic. It's a unique thing that the band hasn't really done much of before or a lot since, and it's a great way of progressing with their sound, which is good because I was worried about how they do after From Here to Infirmary was so intelligently done. Structurally, the album is, once again, just sound, built well and with great crushing instrumental work, but not without its balance in both the emotional and more mature. Lyrically, subjects like love, friendship, and depression are gone over, but the tones match the subjects a bit better here, and once again, it strikes a good balance. Matt's vocals remain more emotional, but he sounds much more mature on this one, and showing signs of moving on from the past, not to mention his wrist being as vicious and sharp as usual. Dan's bass work once more is a good drive and depth, adding that nicely to the sound, and Derek's first go as the band's drummer is awesome, with good speed timing and hard hitting. Standout songs include Emma, 100 Stories, the great closing song in Blue in the Face, Faithfully Yours, and my favourite, And Every Thug Needs a Lady. Good Morning is a dark, more mature tone for the band, and its experimentation and better production value give a lot to look forward to. I can't recommend this one because it took me pleasantly by surprise, so yeah. Anyway, that'll about do it for this one. That's part 1 over. I will see you soon for part 2. I can't guarantee I'll see you tomorrow because life has a habit of getting in the way. But when that part comes out, I'll cover the band's last 4 albums. So, as always, thank you for listening. You're awesome. Bye bye.